So I think that some people were thinking that you could write your story mountain, and then when it was time for you to do your rough draft, you're just kind of rewriting the story mountain. But I just want to let you know that your goal is to come up with a final product that's a myth that comes from your heart and soul and brains, maybe even your feet and your hands and your hair, and it's supposed to come from as many parts of you as possible. It's supposed to really, really represent you, so that when you're done writing it and I'm reading it and your peers are reading it, they can tell, oh, this definitely sounds like Dylan's voice, or oh, this definitely sounds like Eleanor's voice in this story. So this myth, when you're writing it, should be owned and authored by whom?
Me.
By me? No, say it's by me.
By me.
I am the author.
I
am a creative genius.
am
No, I am a creative genius.
a creative genius.
Okay, great. So as you're writing this myth, it needs to come from your
Heart.
it also needs to come from your
Intestines.
brain. Right. It looks like lungs. I'm sorry about that, but it is your brain. Shh. It should also come from your
Hand.
right, because you're the one writing it.
That's a good hand.
Thank you. It might also come from your right, because sometimes in the creative process, instead of sitting down the whole time writing, you may very well have to stand up and walk around and get moving. And sometimes that gets this also moving, right?
Yes.
Sometimes it might even get this moving again. Because when you get a serious case of the blahs, of the does, that just means that this part of you right here, is just not feeling it anymore. And so sometimes you need to actually get your feet involved in order to actually start feeling it again. I get confused between these two gentlemen, but I can't remember if it was Steve Jobs or Bill Gates. But one of those two gentlemen did his best thinking. Maybe it was both of them. When he was just walking around, and that's when he would have a lot of ideas, because that's when you're very active, and your brain gets more active, and your heart gets more active. So the moral of the story is, yes, your feet may very well get involved in this process. So if you go home and tell your parents, I created a myth with my feet, then you're pretty much speaking the truth. Okay, so I want you to be aware that all of these parts of you are going to be involved in writing your myth. Okay, so because of that, now I want you to I'm going to read a little bit to you, and I want you to tell me which one sounds like closer to what a sentence in your myth might eventually sound like. Okay. 3 sisters looked out of the window of the apartment. It was raining. Okay, so that's option A. 3 sisters looked out of the window of their apartment. It was raining. Okay, here's option B. 3 sisters looked out the window of their grandmother's apartment. Dark clouds floated high above. Hard beads of rain danced on umbrellas below. There was nothing to do. Okay, so think in your head for a second before shouting anything out loud. Now turn to the person next to you and say, A or B? And okay, let's take a vote. Which one of those sounds more like it should be part of your myth, and which one not so much? Okay, so A, if your vote is for A, that's what my myth should sound like. Put your hand in the air and I'll tally it. And I'm counting, okay, 0. All right, so how many of you think B should be what your myth sounds more like? And I'm tallying a bunch of tallies. And here I go. I'm tallying up a storm. And so far we have how many?
30.
Okay, good. Some of you voted double.
I did.
Okay, so why though? Now my question is, why should your writing sound more like option B, which was 3 sisters looked out the window of their grandmother's apartment, dark clouds floated high above, I erased my foot, hard beads of rain danced on umbrellas below, there was nothing to do. Why should your myth sound more like that? Okay, Matthew, why?
It's like way more descriptive, and it has like personification for like dancing on the umbrella.
Oh my gosh, he said a magic word. He used the word personification in his speech right now. Exactly. So there is, Matthew, there is some personification on there, and you even told us what part it was. And the beads of rain danced, no, right? Hard beads of rain danced on umbrellas below. So now you can picture, okay, personification. First I have to fix my foot. That's really bothering me. Okay, so the hard beads of rain danced on the umbrella below. So now in your head, hopefully, you're not just seeing this. Drop of rain falling from sky. But you are picturing like a drop of rain, of course, with perhaps, hold on, let me grab my pen.
Legs.
A happy drop of rain, right?
Same with legs.
And he needs to have legs. You're right about that. I almost forgot the legs. So legs. Okay. And then dancing on an umbrella. So here's the top of the umbrella. Thank you. I'm getting good at this. And there's the other part, right? And then he's dancing. So there's the movement signs. So instead of just seeing, you know, this guy right here, just a plain old drop, you're seeing this fancy guy right there dancing on an umbrella. And that makes your story come alive. Your story almost becomes a personification itself. Your story is alive, and it has your voice in it. And you can tell who's more excited about writing the myth, the person who wrote A or the person who wrote B.
B.
Yeah, their heart and soul is in that. They're not just saying, it was rainy. There's 3 girls in my story. Do you like it? I don't care if you do. I'm just writing. Because I have to. Because that's what you do in school. No. Person number B is like, well, yes, I'm writing a myth. I'm so excited about it. There's a bird in my story, but it's not just a bird. It has rainbow feathers, and it eats the moon all the time, and it can't stop itself because it has no self-control because the moon is that delicious. It's like sushi on a golden platter sprinkled with fairy dust. It's just the deliciousest thing to this creature, and that's what your story should sound like. Does that make more sense to you? Okay. So if you find yourself getting a bad case of the blahs, what are some things that you should do? So in other words, your case of the blahs is so bad that your heart has faded to a terrible, terrible shade of gray. Okay? And your brain, instead of being a lively shade of gray, has started to turn a little green around the edges. Okay? Because you have lost all of your gumption. So what should you do in that scenario when you find yourself encountering that? Zach, what should you do?
Walk a lap.
Walk a lap. That's a great solution, and I bet that would work for you, but some people might even have other ideas. What might work for you, Lily?
Add more detail.
Just add more but what if your heart is gray? There's no details left in your heart. Your brain, you can feel the slush starting to happen in there. What can you do to get those details out of you, Tanner?
Some people have different methods for this type, but rebooting your brain in different ways.
Yeah, so how? How do you reboot your brain?
Well, I just think of all the words I know, like what would fit with rain or umbrella or foot.
Okay. So your brain starts going toward words.
Yeah.
Okay, so he thinks in words. He starts grabbing words. And I see you doing that in your life too. And sometimes you almost think of the most ridiculous scenario, right? You're writing a myth and you're like, what's going to be the most ridiculous here? And you laugh about it for a couple minutes and you let yourself imagine that, and then you get back to the myth. And I see that happening to you. So you take brain breaks, right? Some people take walking breaks. What kind of break do you take, Mackenzie?
I take reading my writing breaks.
Oh, so you go back and read it again. Okay, so that's a different kind of brain break. You're taking your writing kind of break. Okay. Sometimes that works for me too. Yep. Amanda, what works for you?
I have 2 methods. I act it out in my head, so it's like a mini TV in my head that I make, and so I act out what's gonna happen next in my head, so I can, and then I kind of like what Tanner said, but then I think of the word and I'll think in my head the non-descriptive word, and then I'll find tons of other words, and I'll find the most descriptive one.
Okay.
That means the same thing as
So you have kind of like a mini television set in your head, and you start thinking of a lot of different kinds of words that go along with it. Great. So you have a built-in television and a built-in thesaurus. That's pretty incredible. Eleanor, how do you take a break?
Well, I sometimes go get water, but I was writing my word myth.
Uh-huh.
I got out a thesaurus.
And did that help too?
Yeah, it helped.
Did you just start reading words just to read words, or were you looking for words specifically, or
I was looking for words.
specific words? Okay. So a lot of you like words then. That's going to benefit you a lot when you're writing this. So Eleanor recommends also taking a water break sometimes, just going in and getting a drink of water. Then that makes sense too. You need to stay hydrated to do anything. Jacob, what do you do?
I take a walk, and while I'm taking a walk, I try to find a good inspiration.
So you're actually walking, but you're also kind of looking around too and trying to find something. That works too. So I've tried, I think, all of these different kinds of things. Jenna, what?
I kind of think of books that I've read before, and I think of what words that they have in them, and I look around at the room or wherever I'm at.
Right. So kind of like what Jacob does, where you're looking around for things too. You're looking for inspiration, except he gets up and does it, and you're actually just kind of sitting there looking around and thinking about books that you've read before, right? And that's great for those of us who are really into reading, because those words stick in our heads. That happens to me too. What happens to me also is songs stick in my heads. In my heads, because I have two of them. No, songs stick in my head too, and they also inspire me. And sometimes I'll get a song in my head, and you'll see me just kind of sitting there. Sometimes I'm tapping my foot, so my body's getting involved, but I also have a song that's in my head that's making me think creatively, and I take a brain break like Tanner does and kind of start thinking ridiculous things, and sometimes I accidentally say them out loud, which you've witnessed. Now, worst case scenario. What if you try a lot of these? What if you walk? Doesn't work. What if you take a drink of water? Doesn't work. What if you just try to restart your heart by thinking happy thoughts and unicorns and rainbows? Doesn't work. What if you try to access that television in your brain? It's unplugged. What if you try to, I don't know, turn to the person next to you and ask, I'm out of ideas, and they're like, me too. Doesn't work. Nothing's working. Then what is your worst case scenario plan? Plan B. What can you do, Alyssa?
So, the day that I was trying to figure out what my kind of story plan was for mine, I was really in like writer's block. So, and I was just thinking, and I was writing down ideas. And I'm like, no, that's not gonna work. No, it's not gonna work. And then the second I close my eyes when I go to bed, an idea popped into my brain. I'm like, I can't forget, I can't forget, I can't forget, and then that's the idea that I have right now.
Okay, great. So what I'm hearing you say actually is you needed to just walk away from it. You needed to be done with it for the day, and then it popped into your head later. So really, if there is no other solution, you've tried every single way, just come up and tell me, and I promise I will have mercy on you. And I can see the look on your face where you're like, oh, I'm just done. And you start stuttering and stuff, then I'm like, you're done. Just go read. Just go do something else. Go do a center, and I will definitely have mercy on you. So if you need just a complete 100% stoppage, I will grant you that. But if you come up to me and say, hey, Lau, I think I'm done with my myth for the day. Can I just go color? And I sense that you just don't want to write today, I'll probably send you back to the drawing board. Okay? But usually I'll have mercy on you. So just come ask, and I'll help you solve that problem. You ready to get started, though?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, too bad, so sad, because you're going to actually have to have snack first, and then you can get back to it. All right.
Wow.